And next up, while we bring up a couple chairs for a panel, so we are very excited for this next panel to be able to discuss what do the next generation 21st century technologies that will improve learning from all ages look like? So we have a series of panelists that will share expert opinions on what they believe will be next, what has currently been transforming the industry, and also a few insights from around the globe because they are quite global speakers. So we're excited to be able to welcome the next set of speakers. So if you'd like to join me on stage, I would like to introduce you to Kelly Campbell, who will be moderating the session, and we'll bring up the other panelists as well. So please join me in welcoming them.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good day today. Thank you for joining our panel. I know the conference program actually titles this panel specifically around AI, but in conversations with the arrangers, they decided that it would make more sense to open it up a little more broadly. So the panel is Harnessing 21st Century Technologies to Improve Learning Outcomes for Students of All Ages. And I'm very pleased to give our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves and to give us a little insight into their role in emerging technologies. So Raven, do you want to kick us off?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Raven from Singapore. I operate in Singapore and in ASEAN. So we are a content provider, bringing in AR, VR into a platform that we believe can improve the learning curve of many students, and we embed the AI into the system. So my company is EdTech Technologies, and if anybody is looking to work in Singapore and ASEAN and in China, you can look for me. Thank you.
Elizaveta?
Hello, I'm Elizaveta Kashirina. I'm a founder of KidStart School. It's a school of business thinking for kids, Moscow, Russia. And I'm also the founder of KidCoin project. And our mission now is to create the system with artificial intelligence to help kids to start this career vision from 7 years old to 17 through long time learning and improve school process with the right motivation, with artificial intelligence, and with first kids cryptocurrency. Thank you.
Mingyu?
Hello everyone, I'm Mingyu. And I'm Chinese, but I'm not working as an innovation officer of EdTech in Innovation Center Denmark and for Danish Ministry of Education. And we have entirely 7 branches all over the world. There are 3 in Asia, 1 is in India, and 1 is in South Korea, and also 1 is based in Shanghai. So we are aimed to facilitate Danish tech companies' capacities into the local market. Like, for example, like in iTech field is mainly like to adapt Danish educational technology to empower Chinese students' learning process. Thank you.
Thank you, and I realized I didn't introduce myself. So I'm Kelly Campbell. I serve as president of Discovery Education's International Division. And Discovery Communications had started an education division about 20 years ago. So we're part of Discovery Channel and all the other media companies people know around the globe. And we take that great content and make it adaptable for school use and create a lot of our own content and interactive activities to accompany that into schools, as well as direct-to-consumer offerings in all subject areas. So I would like to start the panel talking about AI. So AI does have the power to dramatically change how a teacher or an instructor works in a classroom. And I think one of the benefits of the technology is turning the teacher certainly into a facilitator. But how do we help the teachers and the instructors adapt to those new outcomes and the new way of teaching and learning? And what does it really look like in a classroom 5 years from now using AI? What is the role of the teacher, and how do we prepare them? So do we want, Raven, you want to start?
Okay. Our company vision is in the next 5 years, school will operate very differently with the use of AI. Teachers' roles were dramatically changed into a facilitator, and back with analytics, the students' data about the learning curve and its ability of questions will be mapped by the system. The teachers will then provide very personalized learning to each and any individual and pinpoint the right learning curve and objective of each individual. So in this sense, the students probably may shorten his learning curve and they can acquire new knowledge within 20% to 30%, and that is what we believe the new future will be in the next 5 to 10 years.
How do you prepare the teacher then to change for that new outcome?
Teachers have to change the mindset. In the traditional way of teaching, teachers do a lot of delivery. Teachers will then move on to understanding the learning gaps of individual students and understanding precisely what each individual student and the class is generally at the learning point. The teachers can do a few things. They can actually group students of same learning ability together, group students with same gaps together, and teachers may have to change the mindset that actually their job is no longer just to talk. Their job is then to provoke and incite critical thinking skills to the student so that they can apply to the new world.
Elizaveta, your thoughts?
Yeah. A little story from my life. I'm graduated at Stanford University, Stanford School of Engineering, and 6 years ago I dreamed to have very good quality of higher education. But now if you just check the situation on American educational market, you will see that the Harvard University, Stanford University, and the best place of education have a very, very proud crisis. Why? Because artificial intelligence have the special technology that will replace some very high-paid profession in one side. Another side, if we would like to go to good university to get very high salary, it's impossible. It's impossible because artificial intelligence will not replace, for example, someone who took very simple work, but the high-paid professionals, that's first of all. Second thing, it's some online learning education, and artificial intelligence will replace some very, very high-paid professionals. So what I would like to do, I would like to understand how it's possible to improve kids' life from 7 years old to 17, not to spend time at, for example, at Stanford, at Harvard, and someone special place with very high price of education, because now we don't need it. We have very open place. We can get some courses from China, we can get some courses from Moscow State University, etc. But artificial intelligence can get the information for 1 hour, which I get for 6 years at Stanford. It's not the problem, but that's the fact, because our paid professionals will be replaced. The situation on the educational market will change so fast that we couldn't understand how skills we really need, how professionals we really need in 5 years. We are afraid, but first of all, but second thing, we shouldn't be afraid, because our situation is our reality, and instability world, it's our reality too. And I would like to explain that artificial intelligence could help kids, for example, through the school process to start to see his really skills and to get career vision, and to understand that you shouldn't go, for example, to get the PhD at Harvard, but you should understand your potential from 7 years old and to get the strategy, to use your skills to create by yourself, not profession, but by yourself. And now at KidCoin project we have 178 different skills to help kids to get some successful strategy during all the school process. Voilà, that's my opinion.
Yeah, so Mingyu, keeping on this topic, clearly all the panelists believe AI will dramatically improve what students can experience. And if there are any teachers in the room or at this show, how would you advise them to adapt what they're doing now to this new reality in the coming years? What should the teachers be doing to prepare?
I think like AI is like a really hated topic recently. I feel like every industry want to adapt to AI. That I would say like this kind of like compared to say iTech, I would rather to say it's like technology enabled education. So it's somehow it feel like teachers should it's kind of the good age. So teachers should prepare to be a better teacher, or like to be a more qualified teacher than they ever be themselves, because all of this repeated work and all of this like to correcting the papers and to see the data of the students will be replaced perhaps by AI. But I don't think like AI technology is like a super developed technology, and it's still, I feel like still like very weak intelligence so far. But I'm looking forward to have AI, like especially under this Chinese context, to have like real personalized education for Chinese, which is quite different from like Danish concept, because like when you are in the Chinese class, you have 60 students or 100 students. It's super difficult to have this personalized learning or teaching. But I hope like AI could like to do this big data and deep learning about the student behaviors and their learning curves. So that would be like what I expect in the future 5 years, I think.
And that's actually a perfect transition to personalized learning specifically. So emerging technologies have the promise of delivering on personalized learning, and I think worldwide we've been talking about the topic for quite a while.
Yeah.
And a lot of logistics sometimes hold back the personalized learning. So you mentioned a classroom of 60 students, or in the United States we have a very defined progression of kindergarten through 12th grade. And so even if you have a personalized experience, if you're learning a couple of grades ahead of you, you're not actually in a classroom with a couple of grades ahead of you, you're still in your age classroom. So what, on a global scale, what logistics or constraints do you think need to be broken down to truly harness the power of personalized learning? Elizaveta, you want to start us off?
I would like to say one more time that if you check some of the best lecturer through, for example, social media or Facebook or something like that, through the chat, we may see that Clayton Christensen, for example, or the best professional in education, they just take the camera, they stand and have behind some dashboard. It's like the same in the class, and this technology hasn't changed anything. I think that artificial intelligence could be the very good helper for our teachers to get education more personalized, to choose some skills, and to get recommendations for our students, for our kids, how to improve the learning process. But my opinion that this camera and dashboard, and when, for example, some teachers stand behind you, once it will finish, and we just use our mobile devices, our iPad or our iPhone, to get information more quickly, more easy, and more professional in digital sphere. I would like to say that some artificial intelligence could use, for example, blockchain technologies to understand what career success, what, for example, what skill, what progress each student could have through this learning process. So for me, actually, and sure that teacher is very important person, but the most of 70% of our kids can't hear information. So when we talk about cognition technology, or when we talk about how information we can get, too easy, and to understand our learning process better, we should understand that it's impossible to hear, for example, 25 or 75 minutes some special term. For example, about artificial intelligence, about, I don't know, about the math, about the chemistry. It's impossible because we are different people with different learning style, with different starts. And we should understand that we should change the way we learn, and we should have some personalized recommendations. And artificial intelligence could help to create some successful strategy for kids, for students, and should help teacher not to be the person behind the student, but some helper or some game changer when a student can ask and he could help, but not to get information through audience.
Rayvan, the same question, but more specifically around scale. So I know you have individual schools that you're doing some amazing emerging technologies in. How do we, as a global society, get a greater scale around personalized learning?
The AI actually promises a lot of personalized learning, but in my opinion, there are two challenges, because in our society, the country that I came from, Singapore, we are very much founded by grades. A good school is always being assessed by how well its students perform at certain national examinations. So then if you trace back, if you want to personalize learning, you probably have to balance between learning and grades, quite at a very dramatic level. That said, we probably have to train and revolutionize the way we assess our kids as they grow up. We probably have to change the pedagogy and the teaching methods that we instill in school. Is the school ready to say, look, let's not care so much about grade, let's look at the data. This class is not learning so well, let's make them learn maybe 2 years. While this class is a high-performing class, let's get everything pumped pass to them within half a year, they will accelerate to grade 10 immediately. Are we ready to do that? So that said, actually, in a slow transition, probably we might use data to assist teachers to understand how they can help. But there's just a limitation that we can do at the time being because of mindset and grades.
So you touched a little on measures of success. So maybe a formal multiple choice assessment isn't the best way to measure if we're actually impacting teaching and learning. So Mingyu, I'll ask you, what do you think the measures of success for these new emerging technologies should be? What should we really be looking out for as a success story?
Success story?
Or the quantifiable measurements instead of just grades? What should we be looking for?
Yeah, I really like today's topic because we're talking about the learning outcomes, and also for students of all ages. That is kind of the facts we need to face, especially in China, because each country have their different measurement towards these learning outcomes. Like in China, also I pretty agree with what Raven said just now, and this grade and maybe this is super important when we measure the learning outcomes. But I think just to implement a level, I think it's pretty different. In China, for students in different age, maybe we should set up different measurements this. For example, in kindergarten or in primary school or high school, we have the different. Just imagine, different requirement for this student measurement. So maybe AI can do better adapt to this classroom. That's.
Great. So I'm going to ask another question, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience for questions. So get your thoughts prepared if you have a question for the panelists. So I wanted to dive in a little bit into barriers to introducing personalized learning or AI. And one of the situations that often is cited as a barrier is privacy and security. So how do we balance privacy with personalization? Raven, you want to start?
It's a very good question. Because this answer, we are still looking at how to balance privacy, especially in today's world where data is very important to an individual. So how do we balance the right information to pass to the right person, and then at the same time helping those who needs to learn, is one of security in the encryption system, and the other one is also on the learning path of the individual. At this juncture, I would say AI in education is pretty nascent. I would say they still explore. There is a lot of opportunity. There is no, we do not see any market leader in the time being. While encryption or cybersecurity is an important that we should take off, at this juncture, I think we should just let the innovation roll out and probably tackle it in the later part of the time.
Elizaveta, your thoughts on privacy versus personalization?
I think that it's also very good questions, and now I'm thinking that it was the interview of Jack Ma 1 year ago, and he told us that artificial intelligence, it's very, first of all, it's a good helper or very new and progressive technologies, but the other thing, it's very dangerous thing, because if it could be out of our control, we couldn't controlize itself, and it's very dangerous to how enough data we can give to this technology. That's the question. That's the main question. What data and how much, how long, what the quality, and what we get as a result. I have some project with some venture foundation in Moscow, Russia. It's about anti-aging technologies, and the main question in anti-aging and this how to get personal information from the patient, from users, and how you can analyze it to get some healthy strategy. The same in education is the same situation. What information we can get, what information we can took in our artificial intelligence system, and what we would like to get as a result. It's a dangerous if it's under control. It's a dangerous if we don't understand what we need as a goal, as a result. And it's a dangerous what we don't have the really strategy for success, for skills, for something. Because artificial intelligence, it's very good, for example, but it's enough dangerous.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. The purpose of the data and understanding the purpose of the data before just sharing it. Absolutely. And Mingyu, your thoughts on privacy versus personalization, even specifically here in China?
Yeah, and I still think like AI is kind of like a developing industry, like for, and I think when it's get developed more and more developed, and we should set up like there should have like this industry standard of privacy. I think, like for example, like when we do this big data and what this data should belong to, it belongs to the student. So the students should have the right, like, to allow some of the others to use their data. So I think that's kind of the important, like, to have this privacy standard, like. And I also think artificial intelligence is it's just like technological application for education. So so I think the purpose is kind of like to make students self-learning or even self-teaching. So they need to know more about themselves. It's not like to make more the other persons know about themselves. So I think that's important for this standard.
Personalized learning for the person. Yeah. So any questions from our audience? And while I'm scanning the room, we do have a question back there. Do we have a microphone? My microphone?
Hi, my name is Neelam Parma. I work as a director of e-learning in Ashford School in the UK. So I'm very much about EdTech, and we've put technology in our schools with the teachers' hands and the students' hands, etc. While I'm listening to you today, one of my biggest things that's brewing in the back of my mind is, what about the children? Have we asked them whether they want to be wired up to the computers and learn from computers and AI? Whenever I speak to our students, they love the dialogue. They like to talk to the teacher. They want to have that interaction. And they don't go to school to just talk to a computer, for instance, or to a teacher. They go to school because they have their friends, their colleagues, their peers. They learn off each other. So one of my biggest concerns with all of this, and please don't get me wrong, I'm all for AI. I just don't think we found the solution yet, is, are we not isolating our children even more? And do we not need to find a solution where we give them more immersive experiences? And how are we looking to do that?
It's a great question, and I definitely will hand it over to our panelists. I do have an immediate thought because AI and personalized learning actually doesn't mean all technology. Hopefully the interactions with the students is creating more collaboration instead of less, right? So instead of having a nose buried in a textbook, you're able to understand how the child best learns and create small groups where the kids who are hands-on learners are actually doing small group projects. So the data behind the scenes is actually informing the instructions in the classroom, which might have nothing to do with technology. So that's kind of my immediate take, but I definitely, my panelists who would like to respond.
I like this question. My partner always reminds me that AI is a robot. They have no feeling. So whenever I tell him, we should do this, we should do this, we should do that, he say, no, it's just a robot. So I like this question because I feel AI, or in the longer run, it may become a robot or a hologram to teach the student. Actually, this can be done offline, meaning the students can actually pre-learn some of this at home. And when they come to school, what do? They interact. They do interesting things like experiment, apply the knowledge that you learn, acquire, and probably carry out a project together with the group. Engage in critical thinking questions with classmates, where the teachers facilitate the learning of the whole concept. And what do teachers do then? Teachers can spend more time trying to help groups of students with varied ability pull out that potential and let them reach their learning curve as fast as they can. And then they have more time to play and interact with the classmates. That's our take for that.
And just 1 minute to answer your questions. Thank you very much. But my opinion that it's not the effective way just to bring artificial intelligence in some school and tell students, hey, voila, artificial intelligence, new innovation technology now. You should be happy. But students or kids come to school to be successful every day. They would like to speak each other, they would like to share some information or to get to learning process together. And the main question that our school maybe very often have some instruments to get the success for kids. That's the problem. And my opinion that first of all it should be how people get information in brains, and the second thing, what technology we can use effectively to get some results every day, every matters, every, I don't know, in chemistry, in math, in tennis, etc. And the first thing, artificial intelligence should be effective way to help to get strategy, to get result, to help teacher to be with kid, not the opposite, but to be with kid during this learning process. Thank you.
Just one more sentence. It's like, thank you very much for the question. And I also consider that because compared to a government officer, I'd rather to be a teacher. So I always consider this thing. But I think like everyone should remember about the human factor. It's AI made by us, right? So it's just AI. It cannot replace teacher forever, I think. Yeah.
So our timekeeper tells me I have about 60 seconds, but I always like to end a panel by asking a question about the future. So if you had a crystal ball or you could predict the future, what one thing should people be watching? Let's start with Mingyu.
For one technology or?
Well,
for-
I
or
was
for
thinking emerging
generally?
technologies, but anything.
I would like to mention one thing, like I wrote from the news actually for last 2 weeks, I think. I just talk a little bit about this because I saw there have like a AI application for facial recognition monitoring in Chinese classroom. That is like this monitoring system will scan all of these faces in the classroom of students for every 30 seconds. So like they will identify if the student is happy or sad or like tired or something, and they also will rate the rate the actions if they are standing up or like to hands up or if they're sleepy. And they also have a like scoring system. So if you are sleeping, so you have this -1 score or something. I'm a little bit afraid of this because I feel like it reminded me about like a very, very famous economic experiment done by Bentham of British economist, I think. It's talking about like this round prison, like every prisoner will be under watch from the tower thing. So I think this artificial intelligence should be used more to assist students' learning process, but not to watch them and not to monitor them. So I wouldn't see if there have like in the future there will be some of this technology. I don't know what will come up, but I just think like people should always be aware and concerned about this phenomenon happen. Yeah.
My opinion that our futures, it's not only technologies but the process. We shouldn't get to our kids, to our students, just give these technologies and you will be happy. No, it's not. We should help them to create successful future with skills, not the scores in universities and in schools. First of all, we should get them some instruments to get digital future or token futures on something on blockchain. I'm almost sure that blockchain will help to be open and to get any information around the world. And the first thing, we should understand neuroscience and cognition technologies because that's the base. It's impossible to get innovation technologies on the empty brains. We should understand that our kids or our students would get information right, to start with the right way and to be successful during all the life. Thank you.
One technology that I think we should look at would be hologram. The use of hologram on the mobile phone, on the watch, or on the lenses, where you can anytime, anywhere, talk to a teacher or talk to an AI hologram to ask for information and to interact. That's what I think the new future may be. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Please join me in thanking our panelists, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.